Well, we got our Zuma put back together, and I'm telling you, there's about 400 screws and bolts in this thing to get it back together, and it'd probably be almost impossible to film without making an hour-long video on just removing bodywork and putting it back together on this thing. So that's the process. All this was off, and now it's all back on. But the good news is, that's right, it runs and idles. It sounds pretty stinking good. So, with that said, there's only one other problem with this thing that really stands out, and that is the front brake likes to stick on. It's a hydraulic brake, and if you use the brakes and then try to spin the front tire, sometimes they spin good and other times they really grab. And we're going to take care of that. That's one of two things. Either we got a piston seal that is hanging up in our caliper, or we got a caliper that's not free on the pins. It's kind of binding some. I've checked the front wheel bearings and they're good. So we're going to pull the caliper off this, rebuild the caliper, check out the slide pins in it, and put this thing back together and get the brakes working like they should. Because I hate to make a machine go that just doesn't stop well. So here we go. Alrighty, first thing we're going to do is get our line loose. And we'll try to not lose an extravagant amount of brake fluid. What I will do is get a pig mat to put underneath that before I start, just in case we lose a bunch. And I think I'm going to put this kind of up over the wheel like that. In case any drips, she'll drip on the mat. Have a crush washer on each side of that line. Set that down there, and then all we got to do is pop off our mount bolt. And the caliper should be free. Slides off there pretty well. I'm not sure this thing's hanging up as much as it is not free on the pins. But I've got the piston seals to rebuild this, so we're going to go ahead and do that anyway. Pretty darn sure it's hanging up there. You can see what kind of awesome shape the brake fluid's in. It's probably the vintage OEM stuff. You can see on the back side here, we've got decent brake pad there still. Probably half pad or better. That's pretty good. So we're going to push this piston back, and then we're going to disassemble this, check our pins, our slide pins, and also replace the caliper seals. Oh yeah, that piston's hanging up. Yep. Well, we're on the right track. That's good. Pull out our slide pin. Well, it's not all crusty and rusty and everything, so that's not too bad. Pop our brake pads out. We can get them to pop out. There we go. There's the other one. I'll pop that off there, and now all we got is our little caliper here. Now I'm going to take this over to the parts washer and wash it up. Then I'll bring you right back, and we'll pop this thing apart and put it back together. This is a pretty simple one to do, so it shouldn't take too long. All right, we got our caliper cleaned up a little bit, and we're going to see if we can pop this piston out of here. I'm simply going to apply air pressure and see if it'll pop out. Not sure it's going to work. Might not. Might need to apply heat. Who really knows? But I am going to aim this down in case this piston comes out of there like a bullet. It kind of stays, kind of trapped. Nope, no movement at all. Now, when you're using any kind of heat, especially open flame, take precautions. Have a fire extinguisher around. Get anything that's super flammable farther away from you. Here we go. Apparently pig mat is really flammable. Well, it's really melty. Not necessarily flammable, but it is melty. I'm going to grab a pair of pliers here. And I'm going to hold this up off the pig mat while I heat it up. Maybe I won't burn the pig mat quite as much. Who knows? Once again, if you're not 100% confident in what you're doing, don't do this. Something tells me that's going to be hot now. Something to do with the open flame and all. So I am going to try to hold this with some pliers while I apply some air pressure to it. Better yet, I'm going to use a rag. There, our piston popped out. Still warm, believe it or not. There's our piston. Yikes, he's a little hot too. And there's our two little O-rings, our seal and our piston seal. Dust seal and piston seal, if you will. We'll pop this first seal out of here. And if you notice, I don't know how well you can see this. Let me see if I can make it better. See all that white stuff in there? That crusty? That's dried brake fluid. When it dries up underneath these O-rings. And then it compresses the O-rings in against the piston. So in a pinch, you could probably just clean these out and put them back together. But we're not in that big of a pinch. We're actually going to replace these. A set of these O-rings for this thing was about, I don't know, $2.50. Like $2.50. So it doesn't make much sense to not replace them. Probably does to some people, but not to me. Put a little contact cleaner in here. Clean it up a bit. Still a little warm. I'm going to take this pick and kind of work around the edge of where the O-rings go. All the way around that. Do the same thing on the inner groove. Then I'm going to take a little die grinder and I'm going to clean out those grooves if I can get in there far enough. This might prohibit me from doing so, but I'm going to give it a shot. Our piston itself, she needs a little bit of wire brushing as well. It's got some buildup on it as well, and this is probably just as much of a reason it was hanging up than not. You can see right there where this thing's set with that ring, this one, against it. So we'll take a wire brush and we'll clean that up, and we're going to take a die grinder and get in and zzz that out, if you know what I mean. If you don't know what I mean, I'll show you what I mean. Then you'll know what I mean. Now I just want to barely get this caught in here because I want to be able to get far enough in there. Don't really recommend this either because that can get out of balance and it can fly out of there. And it's probably never a good situation. Don't forget to wear your safety glasses. That is incredibly out of balance. Oh, still got some more white stuff in there. Pretty good. Not a lot of white stuff left in there. Now then, I don't have a bench brush here, so I'm just going to clean this up with this. Get our piston all cleaned up here. That's pretty good. Alrighty, we got everything cleaned up. Now we're ready to go back together. We'll be right back. Well, as you guys know, I am a huge proponent of using OEM parts when they're available and they're not stupid high. Now, a lot of times they are, but these are the Yamaha 3XG W0047 caliper kit. Comes with both your O-rings. They're kind of pre-lubed, but we want to go ahead and put some brake fluid on anyway. So I'm going to get some brake fluid on my finger and just work that all around that seal. And I'll do the same thing with this piston seal back here. Just work that all in. There we go. Grab a rag, clean up my digits, and then slide these in here. They'll look too big, but typically they will fit. We'll work our end down in there. Whoop, the end went the other way. Missed part of our groove there. Just like that. It all fits in there. We'll take your other one. This is more of a dust seal. The other one's the actual piston seal. We'll set it in there. Sit there nice and gently, just like that. We'll take just a little bit of brake fluid and put it around our piston, such as, and slide that back in there. And this should slide in fairly easy once you get the O-ring started. Famous last words. There we go. That baby's in there. Now, let's take a look here. This pin is in incredibly good shape. So that's wonderful. There's also the slide bolt that goes in here, and it's the same way. It is in really good condition. Now, I'm going to take and put just a little bit of grease down in there so that can slide and continue to slide free. So we'll take some of this stuff and slide it down in that hole. Just so much of it. We don't need a ton. We'll work that down in there just a bit. Feels good. Ooh, she got some suction. That's for sure. Now we'll do the same thing on our other one, but we already peeled the rubber out of here. And we peeled that out because I figured I would have to heat this caliper up. But we want to check this rubber and make sure there's no rips or tears in it. Kind of clean it up a bit. Looks pretty good to me. He sits in this groove. Sometimes these are a bit of a pain in the hoo-hoo dilly to get back in, but that one went pretty simple. This thing's not too bad. Not too bad at all. We'll put a little bit in there, and then we're going to put a little bit on our bolt as well. Now this may or may not be the exact right stuff, but it's certainly better than nothing. Put our caliper back together here. Slide that sweetheart on there. Push it down. Then we'll flip this over and start our other bolt in. Making sure we hit the right hole the first time. There we go. We'll work that down, and both of our seals are sitting in there nice and easy. And now, these move really nice. That's what we need. I like it when stuff moves nice. Alrighty, we'll grab our pads and put those back in. Now these, I don't know if they're originals or not. Might be. Might not be, I just don't know. They are getting down there a bit, but I don't have any, and pretty sure this guy will run them until they're completely dead. So with that said, we'll just slide these back in here. Not in bad shape, just not perfect. Let's mount this thing. Alrighty, we're back over to the fork of the bike, and we're gonna set our caliper back on. If that's possible. It's appearing to be possible. Don't forget to use new crush washers anytime you have these hoses off. Loosen them up, put new ones on. Alrighty, let's tighten this up just a touch. Let's tighten our slide bolt up. Tighten up our mount bolts. All right, let's get those torqued down. All right, we got all those torqued down to the proper specs, and now then we need to bleed these lines, bleed this back out. So I'm going to take that loose, and I'm going to loosen up my bleeder. Probably should have made sure that worked. Feels like I need to add some fluid up here. So I'm going to get this about level, take the cap off, and see if we have any fluid in it. All right, we got some fluid in the top one now. We'll pump that up a bit. We'll loosen our bleeder. Well, that's pretty much going to do it for the old Zuma here. We rebuilt the top end in it. We had a plug muffler. We cleaned the carburetor on it, and we also fixed the front brakes on it. They work pretty stinking good now. It took a little bit to get bled out, and I did not record that very well, but bleeding brakes is just one of those things that you do. You just bleed brakes. Don't know that there's a whole lot to film there. Anyway, we got this sweetheart running, and she fires right up. Runs out pretty decently. I did not run it hard because this thing has a brand new top end in it, and I don't want to run that any harder than I have to. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it whenever you interact with the channel. We've had a slow growth, and it's been a good growth. I've been down for a little bit, but I'm feeling better now, and we're making videos again. We got this sweetheart finished up. We got the 05 CRF 450R finished up. And if you want to go back and check out those videos, there's certainly a bunch of them on that CRF 450R. Got another couple of little projects coming up here. But anyway, just want to say thank you, and God bless. Thanks for watching the channel and supporting me.